You are listening to the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast, episode 30. This week on the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast, we're going to be joined by Blair Michel of Spectra Shot, and we're going to continue our duck profile segment and feature the Barrows Goldeneye. All right, welcome to the 30th episode of the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast. We are your on-demand audio source for all things waterfowl and waterfowl hunting. You can find us at hpoutdoors.com as well as across all of these social networking platforms, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can find all of our episodes also on iTunes, where you can subscribe and have them automatically sent to your computer, phone, or tablet. And you can reach us on the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Hotline at 724-609-FOWL. That's 724-609-3695. For all of you Facebook users out there, you can find us at our listeners group, which is a closed private group for the listeners of this show. You can request access to that by searching the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast listeners group on Facebook, and we'll let you in there to chat with all of us and the guys that listen to the show. And then finally, if you'd like to shoot us an email, you can do so at info@hpoutdoors.com. When I say us, of course, I refer to myself and my partner in crime, Dan Harushka. What's up, Dan?
Well, we were talking before the show started, and we were talking about all these snow geese dying. And at the moment, I'm just looking up more history on the actual disease of this. So actually right now I'm looking at it, and I guess we could just go into that little talking point right now. But
yeah, what's the deal? What's the deal with it? Tell me about it.
So, all right. So in Idaho, 2,000 snow geese just fell out of the sky, pretty much. Just avian cholera, however you pronounce it. So they fall out of the sky in northern Idaho. They're under migration. It happens a lot in birds. And almost annually, something like this happens. They're saying in wild birds, it's common in wetlands and short-term reservoirs. So any kind of flooding or anything like that, it really happens. But it was first isolated by Louis Pasteur. How about that? He grew it in a pure culture. It originated in Europe. It was first recorded in North America in 1943. And this disease is most prevalent in wild waterfowl of North America. So something that happens a lot. And
now I read that there's a small risk of human contracting this disease. Is that, you hear anything about that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's something to really worry about, especially if you're cooking everything. But going back to the Idaho case, I mean, they're talking about, was it 20 bald eagles were seen near these snow geese carcasses, so they're feeding on them.
Yeah, just hammering that.
I mean, that's free food for them. So I guess there's a pretty lengthy incubation period, so we're not going to know if those eagles are going to get it or not. But pretty much, it seems like it pretty much kills them until they're out of contact with it. So
wow,
that migration might be pretty devastating.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I mean, all those eagles out there just enjoying freedom and crushing the buffet of snow geese, man. That's unfortunate, but yeah, that's a crazy story. That circulated the internet quite a bit. I saw a lot of articles popping up about that. Certainly interesting stuff. But this week on the show, we are going to cover a couple different things. We're going to continue our profile segment, feature the Barrows Goldeneye, and then we're going to be joined by Blair Michel, the owner of Spectra Shot. And this week we decided to go a little different route than what we've been doing, in the sense that we've been sort of focusing on tips and techniques and that sort of thing for the main portion of the show. But this week's more of like a product highlight or preview or review or whatever you want to call it. But Spectra Shot, if you're not familiar with it, is a color-coded shot that you can use to identify the birds that you've harvested. So, we'll have Blair on the show to talk to us about, the product and the various benefits that it offers, but really a neat thing, I think. And I think you guys will enjoy, hearing from him and the story behind Spectra Shot. So we're going to cover that as well. Couple things as far as administrative housekeeping items I wanted to touch on. Anybody that follows us on Facebook or is in our listeners group knows that we now have our HP Outdoors barrel stickers for sale and available through the HP Outdoors website store. So if you're interested in one of those, you can swing over there and pick one up, and we'll send one to you. All the proceeds from those sales directly go to supporting the production of this show and the costs associated with that. So we certainly appreciate everybody's support through that means. And then also we are going to be starting a blog that we are going to sort of integrate into hpoutdoors.com, where throughout the year, periodically, we're going to write some articles and put out some different things. But primarily through the course of the season, we're going to kind of do a photo blog to sort of, kind of depict our season, behind the lens, if you will, and just sort of, do a different medium to kind of paint the picture versus just a video or something like that. We'll still do some video stuff, but I think the photo blog will be cool because it's a little bit easier for us to kind of more quickly put material out and capture stories and tell things with it. So definitely keep your eyes out for that, and you can find that on the HP Outdoors website under the media tab. So I'm pretty fired up about the blog, Dan. What about you?
Yeah, I like it, but I admit that I am very green to Tumblr, so I'm gonna have to learn the ins and outs of that. But like you said, I guess it would be more behind the mic more than behind the lens, but it'll give us a chance to document our hunts and share it with all of our listeners.
Yeah, just another media aspect. What do you mean by behind the mic though versus not behind the lens?
Oh, I don't know, because we haven't put many videos out, but we're behind the mic all the time, so it gives more of a picture view behind the mic, right?
No, I think the blog will be pictures behind the lens. The podcast is behind the mic. No?
Well, yeah. I'm just saying it's like behind the scenes, but because we're not on TV or anything, it's kind of behind the mic. But anyway, hey, going back to this avian flu, avian cholera, infected birds die from 6 to 12 hours after contracting this bacteria. How about that? 6 to 12 hours. So I guess if they're going to die, they're going to die pretty quick.
Yeah, I was going to say we'd probably be hearing about those bald eagles if they were going to go, die from this. So hopefully everybody's in the clear there.
All right. Sorry about the change in tune.
No, that's par for the course. The last thing I wanted to bring up real quick before we move on is we are going to try to be better with putting out a little bit more through our newsletter, which is kind of everything going on. It's just something that we don't get to as frequently as we'd like to. But if you'd like to sign up for our newsletter, you can do so at hpoutdoors.com under the podcast page. There's a spot to do that in the upper right-hand side, where the bar is on the right-hand side. You can just enter your email in there and you'll get added to the list. So if you'd like to do that, please feel free to do so. All right, Dan, what do you think? You want to get into the meat of this week's show and hit the duck profile?
Let's do it. How many? We got to be getting thin on ducks.
We are. We may actually start on geese next week. I'm not 100% sure yet. I got to look. But we're getting down to the felt, and our chip stack's getting kind of short. So might have to push all in and go to geese. But for this week, we're going to stay on the ducks and feature the Barrows Goldeneye.
All right, the Barrows Goldeneye. The male is about 19 inches, the female 17. The male comes about 2.1 pounds, and the female is 1.3, so right about 2/3 the size there. The male Barrows Goldeneye has a purplish head with a white patch between the eye and bill, and a dark back contrasts with a white neck, breast, and belly, and the scapulars are black with a row of rectangular white spots. And the white greater coverts are tipped with black, forming a black band between the white speculum and the white patch on the greater coverts. The bill is black and the legs and feet are yellowish. And the female Barrows Goldeneye has a dark chocolate brown head with a narrow whitish collar. The back and the sides are gray, and the chest, breast, and belly are white. And the bill is yellow with a blackish basal area and nail, and the legs and feet are yellowish. And breeding, the Barrows Goldeneye breed in southeastern Alaska, northwestern British Columbia, south to eastern Washington, southwestern Oregon, eastern California, the Rockies, Quebec, Labrador, Greenland, and Iceland. Barrows Goldeneyes nest in wooded or open country, near a lake or pond surrounded by dense vegetation, usually in a natural tree cavity, and that seems to be quite common among a lot of these ducks we're talking about. Usually tree cavities abandoned by woodpeckers, and nest box, rock cavities, or stream banks, and they often nest in the same area in successive years, which that's the first duck we've profiled that actually go back to the same place. And females lay an average of 6 to 12 eggs.
Yeah, you're right. We have seen a lot of ducks that like that natural tree cavity spot for their breeding. When it comes to wintering and migration patterns, in the winter, the Barrows Goldeneye often will be observed in larger flocks on lakes and rivers and bays and stuff like that, from southern Alaska south along the west coast of the U.S. to central California. They'll go over from southern British Columbia and northern Montana to northern Nevada, Utah, and Colorado, and from the Gulf of St. Lawrence south to New York, and rarely as far south as South Carolina. In the time that I've been hunting here in Virginia, I don't believe I've ever seen a Barrows Goldeneye in our area, but appears that occasionally they may come down this way. As far as feeding habits, the Barrows Goldeneye will dive to feed on aquatic insects, crustaceans, small fish, eggs, and pondweeds found in freshwater habitats, mollusks, things of that nature, various marine worms found in different habits and stuff like that. So Barrows Goldeneye is a pretty cool duck, not one that's real common to our neck of the woods, Dan, and I don't think I've ever even seen one in the wild, let alone kill one. But it's a cool looking duck, and as you had mentioned, it very well may be the last one that we profile in this segment. We'll have to check, but for this week, that's our profile for the Barrows Goldeneye. All right, Dan. As we transition here a little bit, we decided to, we talked about having somebody on the show talking about ammunition and shells and that kind of stuff. And, we could have went to somebody from Federal Premium or Winchester or Heavy Shot or, one of these companies that kind of does similar things to the other companies in the market. But instead, we decided to go and try to get someone from Spectra Shot, simply because they're a little bit different and they fill a different niche in the market and offer a unique sort of innovative product. So that's kind of why we went this way. And I think the listeners are going to enjoy this interview. I think it'll open up some eyes too, as far as what's out there with ammunition and just what goes into getting a product ready for market in that space.
Yeah, we have a lot of good questions for Blair, and it's a really, like you said, he has a couple patents on his ammunition, and it's for good reason. So I think he really knows what he's doing, and I think we should just get into it.
I agree. Let's go ahead and roll into our interview with Blair Michel of Spectra Shot. This week, we decided to take a little bit different approach to our interview and our feature segment of the show. And we're going to be joined this week by Blair Michel, owner of Spectra Shot. Blair, how are you?
I'm doing fine. How you doing this evening?
We're doing great. You know, traditionally, our show has been focused on tips and techniques and just sort of various, challenges that guys encounter in the field and ways to tackle those. And, this week we thought we'd go a little bit different route because you guys there at Spectra Shot have a really unique product that sort of fits a niche in the market that's, a lot of other, companies out there, haven't, been able to address. So we wanted to have you come on the show and talk to us a little bit about the product and how it all came to be, because, I think there's a lot of guys that listen to this show that probably have been in a situation where they're, arguing over bands in the field and stuff like that, where your product can be a really big help for a lot of guys. So, before we get too far into, Spectra Shot and the nitty gritty of it, talk to us a little bit about just sort of the benefits of Spectra Shot for the waterfowl hunter. I mean, obviously, it's geared towards hunting in groups and, 6 guys are shooting and 1 bird falls with a band, and, you can, determine more easily who that band belongs to. But obviously there's a lot of other features and things that are built into the, to the shell. So why don't you go ahead and talk to us a little bit about some of those things?
Yeah, right, Josh. Well, we initially started the project. We started with the color novelty, if you would. We needed to figure out who killed what bird. You know how competitive we all are when we're bird hunting, or at least most of us.
Without a doubt.
Or the younger generation. Yeah. So we started there, but as we developed the product and went into a lab and started to test the product, we realized that we had something really special. And the 2 major factors that made it what it is today, i.e. probably the hardest hitting steel on the market, is the coating. And with that coating, there are 2 major factors, as I mentioned. The first is you simply add weight to steel when you coat it, okay? And we basically do a powder-coated process that's patented. And when you add weight to steel, and you have that whole heavy shot principle, if you would, you've got more kinetic energy at impact, therefore you end up with more terminal velocity. Now, the second thing that's very important is that, I don't know if you've ever looked at a raw steel pellet, but most of them have small blemishes in them.
Right.
Kind of like a golf ball, or if you look at the surface of the moon, kind of looks like that. Well, when we put the coating on there, we take all of those blemishes out of the pellet. So guess what? All of those pellets are now the same in that load, so they fly at the same speed, they fly together. What ends up happening is you end up with more pellets on the bird as a result. They fly together further distances. That's why we've been able to shoot birds at further distances with our product, simply because of the coating. So you got more kinetic energy, and then you've got better aerodynamics.
I think a lot of that bears out in the, let's see here, it was January 2015 issue of Wildfowl magazine. They did a review of your 20 gauge shell, and, a lot of the information that came through there, the patterning, the velocity, things of that nature that you're talking about is all really, really positive. So if anybody, wants to check that review out, they can certainly find that online and in that January 2015 issue. But when I got to thinking about having you on the show, and we were, doing research and everything, I got to thinking about just how intimidating it must be to enter, a market that has just some ginormously big players in it that are established and have been around for a long time. So I'd like to hear you talk a little bit about that. And also to that end, when you're talking non-toxic shot and just EPA regulations and, just government regulations, all of that stuff coming into play when you're, talking about waterfowl specific loads, talk to us a little bit about just what goes into getting that approval and the testing and the steps that you got to go through to even, get to step up to the plate, for lack of a better term, to compete with some of these big boys.
Yeah, I can tell you that we have certainly had our fair share of challenges. You know, making a shotgun shell that's non-toxic and going into the market that we have now is not an easy task. I mean, you're talking about companies like Remington and Winchester that have been doing this respectively over 100 years each. It's tough to break into that market. We knew initially that before we could bring any product to market that we needed to have a patent on it, simply because of the history of others going into the market and bringing in a good product and then other companies duplicating it and trying to take it over. So we ended up with our patent. Of course, we filed a provisional first, and it took a little bit of work, and that's expensive in itself, just getting or having the patent issued. And we've got two of them. We've got the party hunting or colored shot and or colored projectiles, and also the glow-in-the-dark shot.
And Blair,
but there's more challenge.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but just for people that don't know, the patent process is extensive, and it takes quite a bit of time and resources to even get to that point, correct?
Oh, it does. I mean, most patent attorneys, I would say the average hourly rate's between $400 and $500 an hour.
Whew.
So if you could imagine, and then you go back and forth with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, you draw up your patent and they send it back to you and say, well, we're not going to issue it because of, various vague reasons. And then you've got to go back and draw it up again and send it back. And you might go through that, 10 or 15 different times. When an attorney's working on that for you, he's billing you at those hourly rates. It certainly adds up. I can tell you, that's a challenge in itself. But we got through that part, and we made it through there, and that was good. And so we decided to bring the product to market. So part of what we did was we did research with the federal government and a code of federal regulation to determine whether or not the coding would be okay. Well, we went through and found the actual coding that we use approved, safe for human and animal consumption. And basically what the coding is it's a powder-coated process, and the coating is essentially everything that's non-stick in your kitchen that you cook with.
Gotcha.
Okay. So we go through that process, and we say, okay, well, we've got this figured out. We had an attorney, research this for us, and it looks like everything for the most part is good. So we start making the product. We go out to local dealers and we start selling the product, and it's out on the shelves. And then all of a sudden we get a call from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And they say, Blair, we've heard about your idea and your shot, and we think it's great. And we're like, oh, good. Well, we're happy that you are satisfied with it.
So far, so good, yeah.
Yeah, well, the only problem is that you haven't had it approved by us. And I said, well, wait a minute. I said, we've looked this up in the Federal Register or Code of Federal Regulation, and we've been able to determine that it is safe for humans and animals to eat. And also the CFR says that if one section of government approves a product or a process, then there's no reason that another section of government should put you through the rigors of having to prove it again. And they took that under advisement. Yeah, so they take that under advisement, and it doesn't take them 2 days later to call me back and say, well, Blair, we appreciate your research and what you've done, but ducks are different, and you can't sell your product. If you sell it, then anybody who's shooting it, we're going to write tickets to. Yeah. So I've already been out to 50-plus dealers putting this stuff on the shelves. And their response to that was, well, you need to call them right now and tell them to take it off. And, if they sold some of it, then you need to let us know how much of it's been sold, and we'll look out for it, and we won't issue any tickets if you make a good faith effort to remove it. So what we had to do then was go to all the dealers, remove the product, take it back. I had to write them checks for the checks that they issued to us buying the product. And we got with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and a year later, after testing through LSU here in Louisiana and also an independent lab, and a couple $100,000, we were able to get the coating approved.
Wow.
So if you can imagine, without me saying very much more than that, it was quite bureaucratic.
Yeah. And I mean,
so,
it's unfortunate. And I think that's, I think that gets down to some of the issues that, we're seeing on a larger scale with the EPA and, various organizations and things like that. It's like everybody, wants to have their individual seat at the table and no one's willing to work with the guy sitting beside them. And in the meantime, you're just out trying to, bring an innovative product to the marketplace and, they're just running you through the ringer. And, I could see how a lot of, maybe less determined people, would turn back and say, either we can't or we're not willing, to go through this.
Right. And then, of course, think about the financial strain. I mean, if you don't have the backing in order to be able to do that, then, I mean, it's tough. It's not easy.
For sure.
But anyway, we got the approval. We got the approval done. And so we went back to the dealers and we got it back out on the shelves. And the next thing you know, the box stores start calling, and we did some orders with several box stores, and we continue to do that. And the business continues to grow with our dealer direct program, and we actually this year going to distribution. But there's a lot of technical parts of this product that make it really interesting and make it work well too. I get a lot of questions about, Blair, what should I hunt with? Well, I can tell you from my experience in the lab, testing coated shot, what I've been able to determine and figure out, and apparently other market research has done the same, is that the number 2 steel pellet is the most widely sold non-toxic shot. And part of the reason why is because it has the best ballistics out of any other steel pellet. Okay? So when you add our coating to it, it makes it even that much better. So as I learned that in the lab and then doing more research online and through calling people, trying to figure these things out, we were able to determine that the number 2 steel pellet was the best. And we decided initially to come out with just a 3-inch number 2 in 4 basic colors, blue, green, yellow, and orange. So after we did the testing, did the research, that's where we came to the conclusion. And since then, we've continued to add on. We've got a 12-gauge 4 shot now. We also have a 3.5 in BB. This year we've added a 28-gauge 4 shot. We've got, of course, a 20-gauge 4 shot that you mentioned earlier that was in Wildfowl magazine earlier or in January, February. So, we just continue to add to the line. We're just, slowly adding more and more. We don't want to add too many more colors because then it creates too much confusion and also takes up too much shelf space.
Yeah, I was just going to say we have a few more questions that might address some more issues there. But first, before I ask you my first question, I just want to say, kudos to you and your team for, stepping up to that challenge that they put in front of you. And, I don't think, listening to your story right there just has me fired up a little bit. Like knowing, coming to the table and putting something new out there and having to go through, just jumping through hoops. And, you're talking about a year after essentially, you were testing the waters with all these dealers. Like I cannot imagine how you were feeling. So, kudos to you and everyone over there to make that happen. But let's lighten it up a little bit. And I'm just going to go right at it. What out of the blue, green, yellow, and orange, what's your most popular color you got going?
Believe it or not, it's even across the board. Okay? When I go hunting, I take yellow, and I'll tell you why. And it's a little known secret. It takes a little bit more coating to get the yellow to work properly in the powder coated process. So those pellets are a little bit heavier than the others.
No, secret's out now.
little inside information right there.
Little inside. So when we buy a box of 4, I think we're gonna be fighting over the yellow here.
Yeah, an ounce and a quarter load, you lose on average 2 pellets per load, but what you gain in weight because of the coating is astronomical compared to losing 2 pellets.
Nice, nice. Well, hey, let's talk to the to the actual color. And I'm just thinking, when this first came out, I'm sure that people were just a little bit hesitant about it. And what I mean about that, how durable is it? Are people, I imagine, are worried about it, maybe, making colors on their barrels or chokes. And you already said, it's safe for human consumption, but do you ever find it, just kind of chipping off? Does it ever, how durable is it?
It's very durable. You'd have to break the pellet in order to be able to see metal. That's how strong it is. And interestingly enough, this particular coating is used down here in the Gulf of Mexico for the oil and gas environment.
Nice.
And the reason why it's used is a couple. Number one, it completely encapsulates what you coat. But number two, it is flexible. Number three, it's abrasive resistant. And number four, it's heat resistant. So actually, I can use our shot with buffer and shoot it wadless. And you would not believe the kind of patterns you get with it in an open choke.
Really?
Yep.
So
I don't think the public is ready for wadless technology yet, but I can tell you it's coming.
Ooh. Uh-oh. Man, so do you have a I'm just thinking about this. Do you have a kind of a scientific background? Are you into putting this stuff together? Do you have scientists working on that? Just random out of my head question.
Yeah, the guy that loads for us, his name is Jay Menifee, and he owns Polywad Incorporated, which is in Roberta, Georgia. And Jay's been loading shells for about 40 years. I call him the mad scientist. He has all the recipes. He's got the lab. I go and sit and spend time with him. My background is business. It's not scientific in any way. I did grow up in Louisiana swamps, and I hunt and fish. I have since I was a kid. And I also shoot. I don't shoot competitively, but I do shoot a lot. And I knew way back when I started this project that we could make something different and better with just a little bit of ingenuity. And Jay has helped that process right along. And we've come up with what we have, which I think is just absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, it's a game changer at the moment here. So let's talk. Turkey season's coming up, and we just got over small game and upland birds. What benefit does your shot have for that?
Well, number one, I built an economical turkey load. Number two, I built our initial offering of our 3-inch number 6 nickel-plated lead in an ounce and 5/8 load on purpose. I built that because the guys that shoot the Still Target Challenge asked me to build a turkey load for them that wouldn't beat them up so bad. They wanted minimal felt recoil, but they also wanted to be able to print really well at 40 yards with it. So I built that load. We built it 3 years ago, and I gave it to them. Of course, I was killing turkeys with it before they started punching paper with it. And they ended up bringing it into the finals and lost a heavy shot by 2 pellets with a 2-ounce load. So we knew we had something good. Our turkey load originated with Jay again. He's the guy who put heavy shot on the map. Dr. Emick went to him with the original heavy shot recipe a long time ago and said, Jay, what can we do with this? And that's where they started with their turkey load.
When you were talking about the research and the, stuff, the time that you put in to coming to the conclusion that the steel number 2s was the, best ballistic size shot, a little smile came across my face because Dan and I, we exclusively shoot number 2s in any ammo that we shoot. all season long. And, we've been in blinds in late seasons, where we pull the number 2s out and, our buddies look at us thinking that, these late season, Canada geese, just gonna be able to hold these 2s and, we're not going to have any knockdown power. So, from what you're saying, that you can use a 2 from opening day to the last day of the season and you're going to be good to go.
Yeah, that's all I carry with me. I mean, when we shoot everything from greater Canada geese to sandhill cranes to swans with them. I teal hunt with it during teal season. I've killed wood ducks with it. I know where that pellet's going when I break the shot. And I know what's happening with it, once it hits the bird. And I can tell you that, there's a lot of people out there who think they need a lot of things, and we respect that. And that's why we're building. We're just going to continue to add. But the things that I've seen in the lab, all I carry with me is a 3-inch number 2 shot. That's
it. I didn't have the scientific background to prove it, but just my experience in the field, told me that the same type of stuff. So I'm really glad to hear that. But I'm going to ask you if you could just one more time, and I know you touched on this already, but run through the sizes that you guys offer, that would be for the waterfowl hunter, because I don't think I had seen that you guys had the 3.5 BB out. I think that was news to me. So run through that one more time just so that we're all clear.
Yeah, actually, I'll start from the top. This year we added a 10 gauge BB, and then we've got a 12 gauge 3.5 BB. We've got a 12 gauge 3-inch 2 and a 12 gauge 3-inch 4.
Okay.
I am working on right now 12 gauge 6 and 7 steel that will be used for just about anything you want to. And then we've got 20 gauge 4, and we also have our 28 gauge 4.
Gotcha. Now, before we move on, I got to ask one more question. So I know you said that the yellow takes a little more coating to get it to, set up properly, and it gives it a little bit more weight. But I'm not gonna lie, when you said that, and I said, this guy's from Louisiana, he's probably a big LSU fan. Is there part of you that just wanted that yellow shot to be just a little bit better than the other colors? I mean, you got blue,
no,
Florida Gators, you got that kind of stuff going on. Tennessee orange. You don't, there was part of me that said, he's got to be a LSU guy that wants that yellow just to be a little bit better.
Believe it or not, I'm not an LSU fan.
Okay.
I played football at another college here in the state, so I'm not necessarily a big LSU fan. I do support the state of Louisiana. We have made purple and gold shot, where we've mixed the shot in the hall or in the setting in the wad, and we've marketed it, and it's sold like wildfire. So school color thing is going to be a thing of the future too. That's going to be coming here shortly.
Oh, I bet.
Mm-hmm.
That's all good stuff. All right, Blair, this whole glow in the dark shooting at night just is blowing my mind right now. Talk about that. I saw on the website how it's talking about how it can help your shots because you're able to see the pellets, where they're going. Just speak to that a little bit, if you would.
Sure. That's our second patent. Basically, it's a true cold tracer. What we do is we set up a field of black lights, and we send that trap across, send a target across from the trap machine where it's in full view of the black lights, and then you shoot, and it's like a swarm of bees go after the target, and it explodes when it hits. It's like fireworks. So that's not really happening. It's just that the black light is lighting everything up, and that's what it looks like.
So, Dan, for a good old boy like you, that's the equivalent of cosmic bowling, basically, is what he's telling you.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Friday night bowl deal where they lighted up all the black light. It's pretty fun stuff. But the really cool thing about it is you can take a child and hand a gun to them, in a matter of 3 or 4 shots, they get it. It's amazing what the brain does when you can actually see what's going on with your shot string. I've got There's a lot of people out there who claim they can see shot string, and I'm sure they can see it sometimes. I'm not that good. I'm a little bit older. My eyes aren't that great, but I'm going to tell you, you can really see this stuff. And once you look at it and see it and understand it, it kind of puts everything into perspective for you if you're a shotgunner.
Man. All right, I have two questions. Oh, and I guess a comment. I can see shot string, but only when it hits the water. And two, what kind of lighting do you have around where you're shooting at? Like just, on the guns.
On the guns, we don't have any lights. What we do is we set up, we hang 400 watt flood black lights. And we normally have 10 to 12 of those up on stands, pointing in the same direction of where you're going to shoot the target. Okay? And then you have one right behind the shooter where he stands to shoot. And you get just a brief second of muzzle flash when you shoot. And then as soon as that disappears, you see the pellets, and it either hits the target or it misses it.
Hmm. And then you're just using regular orange clays and that, because those should be lit up with that fluorescent orange, right?
Yeah, you don't have to paint any clays. You just got to send them across that black light field and then shoot them with the glow in the dark shot.
Yeah, man. Like when I was reading this, I was like, well, they have to be lit up a little bit, and essentially it would be like shooting, at a techno archery where the black lights are over you and there's still enough light to where, safety's not an issue. So that's what I was getting at with that question. So.
Yeah. I mean, Dan he broke a little, scientific barrier there, letting everybody know that you can see shot string on water too.
Well, I'm just saying that, man, I tell you what, I need new friends.
Oh, I'm just teasing.
No, I'm saying I'm not one that claims to see it is all.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say anything there, but yeah.
That's all right. I'll handle it.
Yeah, Josh will point all of it out for you. Don't worry.
Yeah, no, we've talked a lot about shot string on this show because we're big fans of Pattern Master chokes and their ability to shorten that string for us a little bit. So, we've talked about that a good bunch with our listeners and stuff. But, the product that you guys offer, it's really cool, and it's really a unique, thing that just there's not anyone else in the market doing it. And it's just sort of a really, powerful position to be in for you guys. And, it really sort of puts the ball in your court to leverage it moving forward and do some really cool things. But I have to ask you about, your product in particular seems to be a type of product that would greatly benefit from, some of the things that guys, would consider to be negative in the sport today. And what I mean by that is, a lot of guys don't like the ego that comes into duck hunting, nowadays. And, the obsession over bands and guys having all of them on their lanyards. And, you see guys getting in trouble, shooting birds where they shouldn't be just to get bands, and, things of that nature, are black eyes at times for waterfowl hunting and that kind of stuff. So how do you feel about, that sort of paradigm shift in waterfowl hunting? And, obviously that shift in and of itself has created, a gap in the market that you guys were able to jump on and, provide a great product that I think serves an awesome purpose. And, we're really excited to hear you talk about it. It's got me fired up too. But I'm curious to know how you feel about that as far as the way that waterfowl hunting has shifted and, sort of created this gap for your product.
Yeah, well, I've noticed that over the last few years, and I'll just kind of give you an example of the kind of guy I am. I go hunting, and I'm going for the experience. I'm not going there to see how many I can kill. I'm not overly concerned about shooting a banded bird and or being able to claim the band. I'm going for the experience. I'm going for the camaraderie. I'm going for what is in my blood and what I have passion to do. If I'm going to the duck blind with my dad, who's 76 years old, he or I we're not worried about who actually killed the bird. However, I do know that there is a need out there for some generations, just because of the competitiveness of our sport, to know who killed what. And this product lends right into that. We talked about it earlier. We built this initially because of the color novelty, and it's turned into being something much more than that. And in fact, Bill Saunders put it pretty good this year. He said, it's not just a color, it's a killer. And that's what we are basing our sales off of, is that we have a good quality American-made product. Guys are going to have issues no matter what. There's always going to be somewhere, somehow, some kind of drama in the duck blind or in the field. My position on that is, let's not create a bunch of drama. Let's just go hunting and have a good time. And if we can joke and cut up about somebody made a better shot than somebody else, and here's the pellet to prove it, and so be it. I want our product to be known as an American-made, good quality product. I don't know if that answered your question or not.
Yeah, it did. And I think, that's a fantastic answer because, Dan and I are competitive guys. We've been athletes all our lives. That exactly what you're talking about. We're in that generation, where guys are like that. But, I think I speak for both of us when we're hunting in the field with 6 or 7 guys and, someone shoots a banded bird, as soon as that argument starts, it's like such a turnoff for me. And I just shut it down. I walk away. Even if I think I shot the bird, like just getting into that confrontation is not worth it. But I think that for a guy like me who isn't willing to fight my buddy for a band like that, because I just don't care enough, even though I love shooting banded birds, I think it's cool. Having that part of it taken out. So even though, just knowing that if a banded bird falls, that part will not happen is a peace of mind for me that I know would allow me to enjoy my time in the field better. And, I think it's a great way to address that. So I think it's important to note that it's not just for, the guy that wants to go out there and puff his chest out about having a lanyard full of bands. It's for the guy too that wants to just enjoy himself out there and take take that part out of the equation. At least, that's how I look at it, in addition to the, the ballistic qualities that, that it has as well. So, I don't know about you, Dan, but that's sort of how I feel about it.
Yeah, for sure. And we even, the hunt we had this year, what did we have? I think we had 7 maybe guys in the field and, shot a couple birds, and everyone shot pretty much. And we ended up, shutting down the conversation. We gave the band to our cameraman, who is the only one for sure that got the kill. So, he got the kill on tape, and we went that way with it. But, Blair, you guys, I'm really amazed at what you have going on here, and I kind of want to know, besides the college colors coming out, what else do you have in the pipeline?
Well, I think that our number 6 and 7 steel is going to be an interesting product. It's not necessarily going to be geared to waterfowl, although people can use it for that. It's going to be used for everything upland game, and I know you guys are aware of the issues concerning lead shot. Mm-hmm. And I think this just gives us a broader range or opportunity to get out in the field as a person of the public. You can still hunt on wildlife management areas if you use steel shot. I'm not sure if you guys go through that up in Pennsylvania yet or not, but it's starting to take effect in the South too, where they don't want lead shot on any federal supported wildlife management area. So we feel like there's a market there. Where do we go? Maybe a 3.5 and a 2 shot. I don't know. Do we add 2 shot and 10 gauge? Probably, or are we going to add, more shot sizes, 3s and 5s and, whatever else for 12 gauge and 3 inch? Probably so. I'm a big fan of the sub gauge stuff. I think before I do any of the other bigger stuff, I'm probably going to make a 410 for the kids. I think that, everywhere I go, it's difficult to find 410 steel shot.
Yep.
So, that's going to be one that we'll bring out too. Eventually, and actually what we have samples now, or we have components for, a slug load for deer. And then also buckshot, a predator load, and a home defense load. So, we've got a lot on the agenda, moving forward. We just add a little bit at a time as the market allows us to. And, we're not necessarily in a rush to hurry up and make all of it. We just want to make it and make it right. Make sure that the public is satisfied with it and happy with it. So that's kind of the game plan now.
Yeah, I think that sounds fantastic. And actually something you just said sort of jarred my my head here to another issue that we've talked a lot about on this show, and that's the 3-inch versus 3.5 inch. So as a guy who spent a lot of time in the lab and looking at ballistics and stuff like that, what's your opinion on the 3 and the 3.5 inch differences? Dan and I both shoot 3-inch number twos. You got guys out there that say they only shoot 3.5 because they don't make a 4-inch. Where do you fall in that line? And, what kind of science do you have that sort of backs up your position?
Yeah, well, there's quite there's a couple of things that I'll work off of. Number one, you guys have not had the luxury yet of standing perpendicular to our shot being shot under black light. One comment I'll make on that: you cannot swing your barrel fast enough to spread that shot out. Okay, it's going way too fast. Mm-hmm. So if you can imagine that, what breaks the bird or breaks the target and what kills the bird most of the time is that 1 or 2 layers of pellets in the top of the shell, sitting in the top of the wad. Okay? So what happens to the rest of it? It just doesn't hit the bird and it falls to the earth. Okay? Mm-hmm. So do you really need to have an 1 5/8 or a 2 ounce load or a 2 1/4 ounce load to kill waterfowl in a 3.5 inch shell? My perspective, no, you don't. And I think that the shot is a waste. But public perception is they need a 3.5.
Right.
Well, for me, perception is reality, so we build it.
Right.
There's a market.
Again, if I could convince you guys to buy a 2 3/4 load that averages 1,450 feet per second, and it's half an ounce, if I could convince you to do that, we'd all have a better place. Because the shot wouldn't cost as much, or the shells wouldn't cost as much, and we wouldn't be wasting as much of it whenever we shoot.
Right.
But how many people do you know are going to shoot a 2 3/4 number 2 in a 1/2 ounce load? Not many.
I was going to say, I don't think I know any.
So that's kind of my philosophy on it. I believe that perception is reality, but I also know what I see in the lab, and I know what I shoot. And, I'm comfortable with the 3-inch twos, especially with our powder makeup and how it burns and how comfortable it is to shoot. Mm-hmm. So I just leave it at that. And, that's what I hunt with. So,
So I do have to ask, what choke do you use in your gun?
The choke that I use when I duck hunt is the modified choke that came with the gun. And whenever I'm goose hunting or sandhill crane hunting, I'll put in a pattern master, I'll put in the kicks, I'll put in the jebs. Those are my 3 go-to waterfowl chokes. And of course, those are the extended range full.
Right. Yeah, Dan and I are full choke guys, and we both keep we put the full choke in September, and it stays in there all the way through the end of the year for our situations up here. So catch a little bit of heat from some of our listeners from time to time about that fact, but it all comes down, in our opinion, to what you're comfortable with and what your abilities are, and what works for you in the field. So if you're comfortable there, then roll with it. But Blair, I have to admit, man, I've really enjoyed talking to you. I've really enjoyed listening to the story of how you guys kind of fought through all the adversity, and to see where you're going now. Tell our listeners where they can find out more information about Spectra Shot, and where they can buy it.
yeah, they can go to spectrashot.com and get information. And we do have a shopping cart there with some of our products. And then, of course, Bass Pro Shops carries it in their stores. Sportsman's Warehouse does as well. Cabela's has it during the waterfowl season online. And, of course, you can go to your local dealer. Our dealer locator on the webpage will tell you whether or not we have a local dealer in your area. And I'd ask that if we don't and you want to be able to buy some of your shot there, then just email me at info@spectrashot.com, and we'll do everything we can to get with that dealer that you have next to your hometown to get them on board with us.
Yeah, that's fantastic. You guys are also on Twitter and Facebook, I believe. Is that right?
Yes, sir, we are. And in fact, yesterday I dove into the idea of doing Instagram. I'm not too good with the mobile stuff, but I'm learning. So I hope over the next few weeks I'll have an Instagram
fantastic
set up as well. Yeah.
Well, definitely, we encourage everyone to check you guys out, and we always support products made right here at home in the U.S. So thank you so much for giving us some time here this evening. We encourage everybody to check you out. And, obviously if any of you guys have any questions or anything for Blair or the guys at Spectra Shot, you can reach out to him on Facebook or Twitter or via email there, and they'll get you squared away. So Blair, thanks again for your time. We really appreciate it. And best of luck to you guys at Spectra Shot. And let's do it again soon sometime.
That sounds good. Thanks for having me.
All right. We would like to thank Blair for taking the time to join the show. And we encourage everyone to check out Spectra Shot on all the various avenues that were mentioned. All right, Dan, what do you think? Are you a Spectra Shot guy now?
We talked a little bit before the interview, you and I did, and you had a little more background on what they went through, but I had no idea the adversity they had to getting their product on the shelf. And, like I said to him, kudos to him and his team. And the one thing I love about this show is getting to talk to guys like Blair and, Tony Vandemore, who they have a dream, they have a vision, and there's very little that's going to stop them. And for what they went through, what Spectra Shot went through to get their product back on the shelf, and all the regulations and just the financial commitment and backing that had to be there, it's just really amazing. And on top of it, American made. Like it's just an awesome story. So yes, I'm on board.
Yeah, it's pretty neat to hear that coming from Blair, and just sort of him sort of pulling the curtain back a little bit for everyone to just experience the trials and tribulations that you go through, and the time and the financial resource that it takes to become a player, and just to get on the shelf, legally on the shelf. Not to mention, you're going against some of the biggest names in outdoor shooting sports, let alone just waterfowl hunting or what have you. So kudos to them, as you said. And, I think the product is a great idea. I think it serves a purpose in a lot of situations. And I'm glad that he proved out that our theory that number 2s are the premium size to shoot. And that he also likes to shoot full chokes at geese and sandhill cranes. So we're doing pretty good in that regard.
So, we are on board there, but my question to you is, when can you buy a bunch of black lights, and how fast can we get together with some of this glow-in-the-dark shot?
I was thinking about that, and we could probably set up some black lights back in the back field there over the food plot, and
without a doubt,
probably get after it. I know how much you like cosmic bowling, so I know you're probably chomping at the bit to get on this.
Seriously, when he was talking about that, I'm just thinking about, the long drive competitions at night with the huge spotlights down the fairway. And I mean, how can you make that better? You can make it better by putting a clay, down range and shooting, under a black light. I think that would just be a blast. So something I definitely want to do. I don't know it would just, I'm just trying to think about how to actually set it up. That's what I'm thinking about, but it would be fun. But, Spectra Shot, they do have a vision. They're filling voids, and they have a great thing going there.
Yeah. Well, again, I'm glad that Blair came on the show and we were able to talk about the company, and we hope to have some other interviews like this in the future where we give people opportunities to come on and just talk about products in the sense that shed some light on what they offer to the waterfowl hunter and how they can benefit you, and give you some insight as to the company themselves and who they are, and all that kind of stuff, and what they value and things along those lines. So we hope you guys enjoyed that interview, and we'd be open to hearing your feedback as to what you guys thought, and possibly doing more stuff like that moving forward. All right, Dan. Last week and this time you rolled me under the bus pretty good. So what do you got for us this week?
I don't know. Well, I just heard some. The more I think about it, we've been seeing some swans around here, and I actually got up from the table and opened the door, and there's swans flying over my house right at the moment. So that was pretty cool to hear in the middle of the night. But not too much, man. It is, I drive by the lake every day at lunch and stop and either take pictures with my camera or my cell phone. And speaking of that, the Northern Lights made it down the other day, and that was a really, really cool opportunity to take a picture at our local duck hole here. So that was cool. You couldn't see it with your natural light, with your eye, but once you open a camera up for 15 or 25 seconds, it was shining pretty good. So that was cool, and I was really happy to have that opportunity to take that. So not too much else going on, my man. How about yourself?
I got a couple things going on here locally, but to your point with the Northern Lights thing, yeah, if you guys want to check that picture out, it's on our Facebook page, Instagram, Twitter, all that kind of stuff. It's a really, really neat picture. But for me, Dan, big things right now is I'm full on deck planning right now. Getting ready to build a deck on my house, and my son's birthday is the end of May, and we're hosting the party here at my home. So pressure's on. Deck's got to get done. So I was doing permits and stuff this week, and lumber takeoffs and material orders. So the start is imminent, and I need to knock it out. Kind of nervous a little bit about it, just because, it's one of those things where everything looks easy enough. And then once you get into it, you hope that you don't hit any unforeseen issues and that kind of stuff. But keeping my fingers crossed that it'll be a smooth, easy build for me and, some of my buddies locally here. So that's what I got coming on my immediate horizon.
You want to know what I'm excited about?
No.
You don't want to know?
Yeah, what is it?
Well, like you mentioned our waterfowl podcast listeners group, and by 11 a.m. that Ryan Dubé is going to have a meme up on that Facebook page with something about your deck. And that right there is what I'm excited about, because finally they can cool off with all the van pictures.
Yeah, they've been hammering you pretty hard with the van. I can just see it now.
Or
what?
The straight redhead today running down a college football sideline. Well, where'd that come out of?
Yeah. Yeah, you get dogged pretty hard on there. You do, for sure.
Oh, rough time.
I can just see myself now with my head like photoshopped on Al Borland or something, hosting an episode of Tool Time.
There you go.
But yeah, so that's what I got going on here, and that's going to pretty much take up most of my time, on the weekends for the next couple of weeks as we get closer to my son's birthday. But
which, speaking of that, might be my son's birthday.
That's right. Your wife's due date is May 21st, the same day that my son was born. So That could be incredibly weird that we would have sons born
That is pretty.
on the same
crazy.
day, 4 years apart. That'd be crazy.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Yeah, this world works in mysterious ways. So very interesting.
Yeah, buddy.
But anyway, let's go ahead and get to closing the show out. But before we do, we'd like to thank the partners of this show: Sitka Gear, Sport Ear, Higdon Outdoors, Big Al Silhouette Decoys, Bison Coolers, and Backwoods Decoy Systems. Again, don't forget, if you'd like to purchase a hard-sided Bison Coolers, use the discount code HP Outdoors to receive $15 off any hard-sided cooler purchase through Bison Coolers. All right, Dan, let's go ahead and put a bow on this show and knock out this week's parting shot. This week's parting shot is something that we talk about a lot, Dan and I, and really kind of hammered it home after talking with Blair this week. And it's just the value that we place on American-made products. There's certain companies out there that really put a focus on having their products produced at home by American workers and keeping, those jobs here. I don't fault companies for going overseas with a lot of their work because I understand the nature of the business. But when the opportunity arises and they can keep work here at home, I think that us as consumers, when at all possible, we should do our best to reward those companies for making that commitment to the workers here locally. Not everybody has the opportunity to do so. So when we do find companies that do that, I think it's something that we should take the time to note. And, for me, whether I'm buying a shirt or something like that, it's worth a few bucks extra to know that it says made in the USA on the back of it. So, when you're out shopping, take those things into consideration, and whenever you can, support the boys here at home and buy made in the USA. All right, that does it for episode 30 of the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast. We hope you guys enjoyed the interview with Blair Michel of Spectra Shot and our profile, the Barrows Goldeneye. You can check out all the episodes on iTunes. You can subscribe if you like, so the episodes automatically get sent to you. And if you hadn't had the opportunity, please consider filling out a 5-star rating and review. It would help us greatly. We look forward to bringing you guys more content in the weeks to come. So for Dan, I'm Josh. Take care.